Host of the Income Stream, and today we're going to talk about 5 secrets to building an engaged audience. Whether you are a YouTuber, a blogger, a podcaster, or maybe just on social media, I'm going to teach you some strategies and tips and different levels by which you can engage your audience so that you can have more people coming back, more people becoming super fans, more people sharing your stuff. That's what we're going to talk about today, plus a whole lot more. Welcome to the Income Stream.
This is the Income Stream to help you achieve your dream, all while we keep it clean. This is the Income Stream. It's the kind of show where you can come and go, but then you leave inspired with no fee required. The Income Stream with Flynn.
Thank you again so much for being here today. Here's how this video is going to work. I'm going to go over the idea of audience engagement and share with you these 5 different levels that will help you build your audience too. And then interestingly enough, if you're watching this in the future, you'll probably notice there's a live chat happening right now too. So for those of you watching live or for those of you watching the replay, I'm going to go over this content first, then we're going to have a discussion about it. We're going to talk about it in sort of real time here. And if you don't happen to catch me live, make sure you do every single morning, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern here on the Income Stream. If you simply go to this link, as you can see up top here, patflynn.com/the Income Stream, that'll take you to the right spot every morning, including weekends. Sometimes we do website reviews, YouTube channel reviews, and other things, and we're gonna have a ton of fun. So let's get into it right now. First, let's talk about audience building and audience engagement. Why is it important to engage with your audience? Well, it's really important to engage with your audience because that's how you can make people feel like they belong to something and that they're in the right spot. Should you just have a one-sided conversation, well, then it can seem very off-putting and it can move people away from your brand and onto somebody else who might be speaking more directly with them. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean you can't build an audience if you can't directly engage with people. However, there are some strategies that work more on the scalable, automated fashion and some other strategies that work on a more one-to-one fashion. So let's go over these 5 levels right now, starting with the 5th and probably, it's important, but it's not the one that's going to give you the most bang for your buck, but it's one that we should all be doing almost by default. In fact, you should be doing all 5 of these by default. So level number 1, this is sort of like DEFCON 1, right? Like, not doing so good with engagement, but it's kind of a requirement. What I'm talking about is you need to match the content, whether it's a live stream, a YouTube video, podcast episode, blog post, social media post, message, letter, whatever it might be. It needs to match in order to engage with your audience in some level their problems, their pains, their interests, their goals on some way, shape, or form. And that's really important. And too often we probably have experienced coming across a brand or business that speaks to us, but it's not really about stuff that we're that interested about. And as a result, we're not that interested in return. So the big question is, how might you go about finding out what these goals are and problems are? Now, the number one way to do this is to actually have direct and sort of one-to-one conversations with your audience, which is always a great thing to do, but more on that a little bit later, because that is also sort of a higher level of engagement, but that's the best way to do it. You could also find out information on other people's websites and other people's brands, maybe podcast episodes, inside of books, inside the covers on Amazon, to determine, well, what topics within the space that I'm in would my audience actually be interested in? So look at the conversations that are already happening, perhaps on social media, on Twitter, find hashtags, look up search terms on forums and in groups to determine, well, what are people actually needing or interested about? Find out what the most popular posts are or the most popular threads with the most comments. That'll at least give you an idea or a starting point for what you should be talking about. And that alone, just them knowing that you know what they're going through and what they need help with, can be a great start to great engagement with your audience and building those super fans and that shareability and that remarkability that we all want with our brand. So that's level number 1. So now let's talk about level number 2. And level number 2 is simply asking questions. If you can ask questions, you will get answers and you'll get people to sort of speak up, right? Because it shouldn't be a one-way conversation. You just pouring and dumping all this information to people. It should be a two-way conversation. And sometimes the best way to have a two-way conversation, if you're in any relationship, you know this is true, you kind of ask questions because you want to be interested in what that other person or what the person on the other end of your channel is interested about. Or it's just, you just want to know what their answer is, right? And that's a really important key. Just simply asking questions, you will get answers. So if your social media stream, for example, is just full of check out my blog post here, go to here, check out my product here. Like, guys, I did this the other day. And it's just like saying things. It's not going to be quite as engaging. It's going to be much harder to interact and also just really relate to you because it doesn't feel like a two-way conversation. Imagine a friend who's always talking about themselves, always sharing you their next best thing, and not really talking to you about what it is that you're interested in, and not even asking any sort of questions whatsoever. And these don't have to be very fine-tuned. They just have to be something that opens up and gives permission to somebody who can come back and reply on the other end. So that's level 2, DEFCON level 2 in terms of engagement. So let's kick this up a notch, right? By the way, there's different kinds of ways to ask questions. You can ask questions in real time, like for the live audience here. If I were to ask you, hey, what do you think of this new format? Me just sort of starting delivering content and then later we'll engage. Let me know what you think, right? I did that in real time. That's a great way to interact, especially if you happen to be going live. And by the way, if you are going live, quite often I recommend you do go live. You can check out my live setup and other resources in the description below if you're watching this on the replay. Another way of asking questions is sort of in real time, right? It's in comments within videos, within blog posts, and then sort of getting those answers later. That's sort of semi-real time because you just posted that thing, you're asking questions, and you're getting people to engage. And then number 3 is sort of a pre-recorded hypothetical ask where, let's say, for example, in the middle of a YouTube video, I might say, so what do you think about the American Revolution? What would you have done if you were George Washington? And then you're not really totally asking people to engage. You're just asking people to think about that. That works a little bit, but the real-time engagement works really, really well. So that's level 2, asking questions. Now let's take this one step further. Level 3, instead of asking questions, ask for the answer. Ask for the answer. What do I mean by that? Well, let me know, and you can play along with me if you'd like. Let me know if you've ever watched a game show on television. I'll tell you that I've watched a lot of game shows on television. Okay, so if you want to play with me, just keep your hand up or just imagine that your hand is up, right? Now, let me ask you this follow-up question. Keep your hand up if you've ever watched a game show by yourself, right? So I've watched game shows by myself, Jeopardy, Wheel of Fortune, all the things. Family Feud is one of my favorites. I don't know, what's your favorite? Okay, now keep your hand up one more time. If by yourself you've ever blurted out or yelled the answer to a game show that you were watching on television, right? I've been in my room by myself and there'll be a question, or if you're watching Jeopardy, it's an answer, and you blurt out the answer, right? George Washington. I don't know what's up with George Washington today. He's on my mind. Anyway, you just shout it out. Why do we shout it out? Why? Like, nobody's there. We're not going to have money magically appear through the screen. We're not going to win any prizes. But here's why this works so well. Because we as human beings, we love to know that we know the answer, right? We love to know that we love the answer, even if it's just for ourselves and not anybody else in the room, right? So give your audience an opportunity to show up and share their answer and step up and even provide one of the best answers. Because too often we entrepreneurs, we creators, we bloggers, YouTubers, podcasters, we go, again, one-sided conversation. But hey, open it up, pass the ball to your audience every once in a while. And I want to give you a quick example of this. There is a YouTube channel from a man named Steve Spangler called Sick Science. I love this channel and I love Steve Spangler. He is a scientist. He makes science fun. I'm very big into STEM education. And so this is like my channel. I would be watching it all day if I was a kid, and I still watch it all day, even though I'm not a kid. Anyway, Steve Spangler is great. He's been a guest on Ellen. He's been a guest on other TV shows, late night, daytime, and he does all these fun experiments, right? Well, he had a YouTube channel. I heard this on an interview on a podcast called Social Media Marketing Podcast with Michael Stelzner. And in fact, this is what he said. He said, our engagement for our YouTube channel when we started out was terrible because what we would do was we would run experiments. We would showcase the experiment, and then we would literally, like a good teacher would, teach people how that happened, right? So imagine you're watching a video and Steve sucks in air from a balloon, right? And then his voice is super low. And you're like, wow, what happened? And he tells you, oh, that's argon, which is a denser gas, which means that the air is heavier and your voice is going to be, lower, right? And you might expect it to be higher because we're used to seeing that with helium, but, argon. And then the engagement was simply, tell us what you think in the comments. Like, that's how the videos were. And his engagement was very poor. You'd get answers to that question like, cool, or first, or, where do I get that gas, or any of those sorts of things. But he switched up his strategy because he wanted to see if he could get more engagement because YouTube was telling people that engagement was important. So this is what he did instead. I'm going to play a video for you to show you exactly now how he runs this. This is about a minute long, and I want you to pay attention to the end of this video so you can see exactly how he engages the audience now. All right, sorry for the sleepy music. So what did Steve do here on Sick Science to engage his audience? Instead of just asking, hey, what did you think? He essentially asked, well, why did this happen? Share your conclusions, which is a very scientific way of asking you. You tell us exactly what happened. And then the comments started to explode after that, from 10 to 20 comments per video. Now we're seeing things like 431 comments per video, and plus, because of the engagement within the YouTube channel comments itself, people start engaging with the comments and replying, and also thumbs upping, right? Thumb upping. Oxygen is a reactant of a combustion reaction. The oxygen in the cup would be present in the product, which is either liquid or solid form, reducing density and increasing the vacuum in the cup, causing the water to be sucked in. Cool. So what had happened is now people are stepping up to provide the answers for everybody else. He's opening up that opportunity for everybody. And when you can have people participate in that sort of fashion, man, the engagement increases all across the board. People feel like they're more in tune with the community. It also obviously helps for the algorithm as well. And so the engagement went through the roof when he started doing this, so much that YouTube reached out to him and said, hey, your engagement on your channel is doing so well. We'd love to have you and your channel be one of our first YouTube originals. And it was called something different, but back then they were finding specific creators who had really high engagement and large audiences to ask, okay, well, what are we gonna do to help you even further, and how engage your audience even more? Let's help you by creating these new original shows, and we'll pay you to do that. So that worked out with Steve, which was really, really cool. And I'm very, very thankful that I have recently got to meet him and connect with him. And it's just super cool what he does. So how might you be able to do this? There's some really interesting ways. For example, maybe you're creating a YouTube thumbnail. Well, instead of just creating the YouTube thumbnail, why don't you tell your audience what you're thinking about 3 different versions and ask your audience, well, which one do you like or prefer better? What I've done in the past is I've created logos for new brands, and I go to my audience and I go, hey, which one of these would you think would be most interesting? I know a lot of authors, myself included, who have created different book covers, and go to my audience and go, hey, which one of these do you think would work best, right? I'm asking for the answer, right? And this takes us to our 4th level, DEFCON level for engagement, which is the biggest one, and that is the well, it's not the biggest one, but it's the one that's probably the easiest and most fun, and that's audience involvement and where your brand is going, right? To have your audience actually be involved in the evolution of your brand, because when you do that, they feel like they're a part of something. And here's the secret, y'all. Here's the secret. Let me zoom in for you really quick. Here's the secret. When you can get your audience involved, they'll be interested, right? When your audience is involved, they'll be interested. So let's get them involved. Let's get them to participate, not just in comments, but actually in the evolution and the future decision-making in your brand, right? Which is why the covers work really well, which is why, and literally all you have to do is go to canva.com, right? If you have something visual that you want people to decide on, put them up in canva.com, which is a website that you can use for free to help create graphics and stuff. And this is perfect for social media because they have templates for the sizes for Instagram, for Twitter, for Facebook, stories, etc. You can literally just go, okay, do you like A? And put like an A underneath that and a B underneath that, right? And then boom, you're gonna have the most engagement ever. In fact, when I've done this is when people actually show up the most, which of course triggers the algorithm and all that sort of stuff. So when people feel like they're involved, they're invested. This is why I love running beta programs to my courses, because when betas come in or my early founding students come in, I'm very upfront with them, telling them, hey, this course is still being handcrafted for you. And by you coming in early, not only do you get early access to me and the course material, and I'm going to be paying a little bit more attention to you versus other students because I really want this to succeed for you, but you are helping shape what this course eventually becomes. So please do the coursework, number one. And number two, let's connect every once in a while so we can collect feedback and make this thing even better. So that's number 4, get your audience involved in some way, shape, or form. Have them help decide, whether it's collectively or individually, parts and pieces of the brand and where you want it to go. It doesn't have to be the whole thing. It doesn't have to be like, hey, audience, can you give me my new business plan? Like, bruh. That's asking a little bit too much. But having them participate even in a minute way has a big impact overall. Okay, so to finish up, let's talk about DEFCON level number 5, which is getting individual engagement opportunities. And that means, yes, actually reaching out to people individually as much as you can. Now, I've shared here in the live stream before certain ways, and I've actually demonstrated this before with tools that we easily have access to right now. Things like your phone, and on your phone, your Instagram account, your Facebook account, and your Twitter account. Whenever you get people to engage with you on more of a mass level, like publicly in a social forum, why not take a moment just to reach out to them with a direct message and a video that might only take 10 to 15 seconds, just thanking them for being there, asking them if they need help with anything, and showing up for your audience on an individual basis. Call them out by name, send them a direct message with a video. It's gonna be a lot easier than actually typing something out and sending an email. It's probably gonna get through a little bit more because you've created this video for them. And number 9, whatever the point is, it's gonna blow them away. In fact, most of the time when I do that, blows their minds because they're just unexpectedly they're receiving something that they don't get from anybody else. And we all have access to these tools and this opportunity. So that's a great way to engage. One thing that I also do that I've shared here before is I, in fact, even though I have an email list of 230,000 people, which is, by the way, if you're a subscriber, whether here on YouTube or on my email list, just thank you so much. But I still make the effort to reach out to 10 people every single month. Random people who had just recently subscribed to my email list, and I try to get on a Skype call with them or on a Zoom call with them or some phone call or some one-on-one conversation in real time. And even though it's only with 10 people, I gotta tell you, these are some of the most valuable conversations I've ever had. Because number one, yes, I'm engaging with that individual, they're very surprised, we connect, they are more likely to become super fans because they're getting this really unique experience that not everybody else is getting, right? This isn't scalable, but here's where it is scalable. You're also collecting feedback from real life people who have real life stories, potentially problems, issues, pains that you can help solve, or stories that you can then empathize with, that you can inject into your future content, or at least think about that person when you create that future content. Empathy is so key. And these individual conversations are so great for helping me better empathize with you, the audience. And so I'd recommend, if anything, try to challenge yourself to have one conversation with one person who's a subscriber on your channel or your social media channels or an email subscriber preferably, and see what those conversations are like. Now, I want to guide you a little bit. I want you to ask questions like, well, how did you even find out about me, right? That's a great one. Or what is something that I can help you with that perhaps you haven't found yet? And that's key because you might already have that information. It's just not findable for them. And that gives you clues on what you can do to improve. Or secondly, you might go, oh, we actually haven't talked about that. I didn't even realize that was important. Let me go just like do a little bit more research about that to see what I can do to discover how to help you. And of course, where there's that one person who has that issue, there's likely multiples of that person within your brand overall. So use that opportunity and the easy access that you have with DMs or emails to have direct interactions with your audience. I promise you, even though it's one-to-one, that information back to you scales big time in your brand. So thank you for being here. If you're watching live, stick around, of course, so we can start having some conversation about this. I want to welcome you in. And if you're watching the replay, I hope this was helpful for you. Make sure you hit that subscribe button because I want to make sure that you come back and see all the future videos that are here like this for you. In fact, we do something like this every single day to help you grow and scale your business. And again, thank you. And stick around because I'm going to be answering questions from the community right now. You can just see how awesome the community is here in just a minute. So for those of you watching live, let me know what you think. Never really done it that way before. We would just dive right into the content, but I'm doing that for the replay viewer and also for you in case you have to leave early, because I wanted it to be boom, here's the content, you dive right in, you're learning almost like you're at a presentation, and then finally, the interaction will happen after. So first of all, let's just welcome in a number of people. What's up, Doug? Good to see you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Spanish and Go says, definitely excellent advice. Thank you so much. I appreciate that too. Let's see. That's another thing I need to work on is email subscribers. Yes, building your email list is definitely really important. Here's a question from Simply Obs. What program did he talk about yesterday for managing social media? He responded with video. That was literally Instagram direct messages. There is another one, however, that can be tuned in and actually incorporated into. This is a great way to engage as well. So thank you for this question. Bonjoro, Bonjoro. I'll take you to the website right now. Bonjoro.com. And if you go to Bonjoro, you're going to see that this allows you to boost customer engagement, but also subscriber engagement. You could do it with people who just subscribe or people who purchase a product. And in fact, what happens is when you get a new subscriber, if you are choosing subscribers, or a new customer, in fact, you get a notification on your phone, a notification that you could swipe on, and then boom, it records a video, or you can record a video and send it directly to that person. It's all integrated, and they're going to get this immediate reply. Like imagine you purchase a product like an email service, and then somebody from that email service provider reaches out to you, calls you by name, welcomes you to the family. Like that's very unusual and very great for starting an amazing relationship. And the person who just paid for something or subscribed to something believe that they are now in the right spot. Rob says, too quiet in here. Pat, you're pure awesomeness. Who's with me? Blessings and health to you, Pat, all the fam, and all here. Thank you so much, Rob. I appreciate you for the super chat. The super chats, by the way, are sort of like paid comments that come in, and they are not required. You don't have to do that, but I appreciate you for that. I will happily accept them. And this month we're donating to Project Cure to help those who are on the front lines of the medical field right now. Last month we donated over 6,000, or exactly 6,000 meals to the San Diego Food Bank, which was really cool. So thank you for that. By the way, I'm Steve, guys, girls. Nice to meet you all. What's up, Steve? Good to see you here. Thank you so much. It always comes back multiplied with Pat, says Rob. Thank you so much, Rob. You're the best. Hey, Archer says, I'm on the fence. I like when you do greetings and engagement first because it feels more personal. Doing the lesson first felt more like a standard YouTube video. Well, give it some time, hey, Archer. Like, you know, I also want to make sure I get the most out of this time that I invest every single day with you. And I'm just experimenting to see how this might help with perhaps finding new people to bring into the community. Perhaps some of you watching right now had caught this later, and I'd love to know your thoughts. Obviously, I've been mentioning how sometimes live streams, when they start off with just like kind of a random sort of welcome and sort of waiting for things to get started, sometimes it's not as attractive to those who are watching later. And hopefully this maybe can keep you watching so that we can engage like we're doing right now in the future. Maybe there's a little bit of a way to add a little bit more engagement to show people watching later that there are some people here. I can welcome people in, mention people by name, and then get right into it. So maybe I'll try that. Different topic. Another thing I know I need to do is upgrade and change the thumbnails a little bit, which is really key. And in fact, I'd love to demonstrate for you because we had a lot of people yesterday when we talked about YouTube videos and preparation for YouTube videos, the importance of titles, the importance of thumbnails. I'd love to potentially see how we might be able to actually create on the fly here today a thumbnail for this live stream. A lot of my live streams, the other problem with it is because it happens every day, all the thumbnails are starting to look the same. It's starting to make the sort of library here sort of hard to read, hard to navigate, and it's just everything looks the same, so it's hard to capture a person's interest about a certain thing. So I'd love to start updating the YouTube thumbnails in the future, especially when they're topic specific. I'm still gonna have Don't Worry Casual Fridays. We're gonna bring out the wheel every once in a while, the sort of spin to win with Flynn sort of situation. We're still gonna do website reviews, YouTube reviews, and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I see the live chat here having a hard time deciding which they like better, especially because, by the way, you've been used to this for 56 days in a row. You've seen it the other way. I wanted to try something different. And the other thing that is interesting, let me sit down for this because my legs hurt. So I'll do a YouTube thumbnail demonstration here in just a minute for you. And I'll go into Photoshop, or, you know, if you want to use Canva, you can use Canva instead, but I'm just very familiar with Photoshop. And I'll share with you where I get those images and how I sort of manipulate them and all that sort of stuff in just a moment. So make sure you stick around for that. But yeah, when I do it the other way, where I do a welcome and it might be like 10 minutes of welcome and then I do the video in the middle, I can use YouTube to chop the beginning parts off of it, which is still something that I'm considering to do more often. I did that before. The only issue that I found with YouTube is that when you do that, the chat goes away. The chat goes away forever, in fact. So when a person watches the replay, the chat's gone. Now, there are ways to fix this, though. Using a tool called Streamlabs, I could pop up the chat here and have it both on the screen here and for those of you watching live there as well. So that could be interesting, although that might be distracting. Again, here's my lesson here. You try something new, you see how people like it. So I'm getting some really good feedback in the room right now. I'm gonna get some feedback from those watching the replay. If you happen to be watching the replay and still here, let me know what you thought about just diving right in. I'm definitely paying attention to the answers, and I'm gonna always try to incrementally improve all the time. So hopefully that was helpful. Let's answer some more questions. I see some questions coming in. One time I simply doubted something I said in a video, and there was a flood of comments to try to help me. Great way to invite engagement. Yeah, I think the big lesson there is sometimes opening up the audience to help you, even on a micro level like that, could be really interesting. And they can also get behind you and feel like they're a part of something, feel like they're helping out. That's really great. Question from Bernhard says, how can this be applied to a physical shop which is restricted to an area within a city? Well, I think physical shops should be online in some way, shape, or form, and that's where a lot of engagement would happen. Now, obviously, if a person walked into the store, you want to engage, but you also want to pay attention to body language and how they react, right? Sometimes I'll walk into a Gap and like just sort of right in the corner, it's like, hey, how can I help you? And I'm like, whoa, you and your headset are scary right now. And so I think it's important to really pay attention to like the approach and how you engage. I think small talk, there's a space for it and time for it. I often, when I go into, for example, an Ace Hardware, I often appreciate when they go, hey, thanks for coming in today. Is there anything I can help you with, right? And I'm like, yeah, actually, I need some paint. Can you help me? And I'm, boom, getting my stuff. And that's really fantastic. Other times I go in there and it doesn't work out as well because a person goes, hey, do you need help with anything? This is Ace Hardware, right? And they're trained to do this. Hey, can I help you find anything? And I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm just browsing. And then 2 minutes later, another person comes by. Hey, can I help you with anything? I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm just browsing. And another person who came from upstairs, like, I know that they're doing a good job, but also it's kind of annoying when there's not that communication on their level and they're seeing, like I'm seeing the same sort of interaction from different people without knowing that I was in the store for 10 minutes already, right? So in a perfect scenario, they would go, hey, SwitchPod hat guy is just browsing. Don't engage. Or something like that. I don't know if they do that or not, but that's just, I would prefer to be left alone if I want to be left alone, if that makes sense. Chase Bank did that. I found I had to actively avoid enthusiastic greeters. Yeah, I mean, and I also think of the Walmart greeters, like, that's nice. It's like, they're friendly. They just say hello. They're not, like, probing, right? Anyway, just a thought. Cool. Question, Pat, do you... to do everything you do as far as answering to live comments, etc., do you have to have the Blackmagic Switch Mini or some kind of switch? No, you can just go live on Ecamm Live if you'd like, the way it is. And what happens is, whether you're streaming on Facebook or Twitch or here on YouTube, comments get pulled out, and essentially just through Ecamm alone, I can display your comment just like that. Let me see if I can I share my computer screen? Let's see. And I'll show you how to do this really quick. I'm wondering if you could see that. So there's your comment right there, and I just click Add to Broadcast, and it adds it, and I can remove it, right? KS is asking, what is everyone working on? Engaging with the audience. I love it. So that's how I do that. You don't need anything fancy. You can just use a webcam like the one I'm holding right now, which is a Logitech C920. I do have the Blackmagic thing that you're talking about, which is in fact this box down here, that box with the light down there. That connects to that. That monitor is just so I can see and make sure the positioning's right. But that's like a $600 box that I use to have my DSLR camera show up to look all fancy like this. Anyway, let's go through a YouTube thumbnail. So a YouTube thumbnail is really key, like we talked about yesterday. And this video in particular, I think has a pretty decent name. Right, 5 secrets to better engagement, right? So 5 secrets of better engagement. I could probably rewrite that, and that's the cool thing about titles and thumbnails. You can always update them, always change them, right? So if you have an archive of older stuff, you might want to go back and change those things first. It might be some low-hanging fruit in there, and you just need to update the thumbnail to have it be more engaging, more curiosity-driven clicks, and you can increase your impressions to click-through rates, and then YouTube might actually help out. In fact, every once in a while, you'll find that when you do that, YouTube's just like, oh, you think we're gonna test that out. Wow, it's working really well. Let's blast it out to everybody, right? What magic box model do I use? I'm using the web presenter, Blackmagic web presenter. There are cheaper options though. There are the Cam Link from Elgato Cam Link. That's probably the most popular one to connect sort of HDMI cable into your computer so that you can select it as a webcam. By the way, when I was sharing the 6 sign stuff, do you remember that? The 6 sign stuff? What's really cool about this is these videos autoplay. Like if I didn't hit stop, this would just burn through, I don't know how many stuff, 120. Like if I just kept this going, because it's in a playlist, it would just go all the way through. So if you happen to be on YouTube and have sort of a series of videos or things that sort of, relate to each other, definitely put them in a playlist. They become something that is findable. For example, if I were to go to YouTube and go how to start a podcast, not only do I have one of the top videos here, but if I scroll down, you might see, I'm wondering if it's gonna show up there, a second entry because of the playlist. And in fact, if people click on this playlist, hi, my name is Pat Flynn, and I'm here to help you get your podcast up and running in no time at all. Boom, and look at this, all the videos in this series. There's only 8 of them, but they're very relevant. One leads into the next, and this is how this video has had about 1 million views, just this one video. And then the second video has, I think, 500,000. Hey, what's up, guys? No, not 500,000. Not quite as many. I could probably do a better job of connecting that first video to the next, but playlists work really, really well. They are findable in search. Every time you create a new playlist, it's a new entry that can be found in search, and a new way for people to sort of get access to your stuff, and a new way for people to automate and go through your content. Are we good to go? Let me know if I come back. The live stream tells me I'm buffering. Refresh the page, it's good again. We good, chat? We are back. Ooh, buffering. Ha! Too much good information, maybe, or not. Maybe it's trying to catch up and be like, what is this guy talking about? We need to like refresh this so that we can have it be better. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But we are good to go. Okay, so we're gonna go over a YouTube thumbnail. So what I like to do, and I'm actually gonna share my screen right now. I'm gonna open up Photoshop for you. Again, you don't have to use Photoshop. There's a lot of other tools out there that you might be able to use, such as Canva. There's a whole bunch. I can't even remember the names of some of the free ones out there, but this was the thumbnail for today's. I have templates, right? I have templates for things that I want to do over and over again. And because this live stream happens every day, here's my template for the live stream, and I just simply change this to 14, and I change the title. Whatever tomorrow's is going to be out, you'll find out about it later. But I want to do a new thumbnail for you. So here's what I want to do. I'm going to go File, New. And I'm gonna go 1920 by 1080. As long as it's 1080 sort of size or ratio, that's gonna work for a YouTube thumbnail. The other thing you have to know about a YouTube thumbnail is it has to be exported under 2 megabytes. So if you wanna use some sort of image and have it be high res, that's great. Just make sure you compress it in a way where it's same size, but the file size is under 2 megabytes, or else YouTube will not allow you to do that. So again, we're talking specifically about the 5 levels of engagement for your audience. So the first thing I always do, just to get some ideas, is I look up the existing thumbnails, right? Audience engagement. So I wanna see what's here already. This is the other cool thing about a playlist. You'll notice that the playlist here hangs around. It hangs around on the lower right-hand corner, right? So hey, look at that, audience engagement. This stream has showed up as a result of that, which is pretty cool. Audience engagement secrets, it literally tells you right in the thumbnail there. Look at this one. This one's a very poor thumbnail. Yes, it's a TED Talk, which is pretty cool, but I mean, that doesn't really tell me anything. Engage your audience. 10 ideas for greater audience engagement. 6 tips to engage audience. See, I like this one. I like this one, even though it's simple and it's not quite as doctored up, if you will. I like the ear thing. It's like eye-catching amongst all this. And I like how it just says like what the benefit is. Oh, it's not a benefit. I thought it said they will listen versus will they listen. I think it would be stronger if it said they will listen. And what do they know that you don't know? That's kind of an interesting thumbnail. How to keep your audience engaged. So this is from our good friends Sean Cannell and Benji from Video Influencers. How to keep your audience engaged on YouTube. That's pretty cool. Okay, so sometimes very clearly there is like something symbolic that you can include or something that you can add on to the video thumbnail that would make sense. For example, if you've noticed one of my recent videos about pandemic ideas, for example, if I were to go to, actually, here we go, business ideas. If I were to go here, you'll see that this thumbnail was very clearly symbolic of things that are happening right now, meaning there are more open doors than ever as a result of the pandemic. This is driving a lot of clicks. We have 101,000 views and it was only published 2 weeks ago. So this thumbnail really works. And you'll also notice that there is text here on the video, but it doesn't match the title. And that's another important thing. They shouldn't actually match because, I mean, it's literally that, like this one here, 11 businesses that could boom online, 11 businesses that could boom. Right, so this is it's not bad, and it's funny. Pandemic business ideas. I didn't know that this video existed too. 6 business ideas after coronavirus. Right, so that one doesn't match, and that one's nice too. Look, 115,000 views in India. Coronavirus is good. Cool. It's definitely not good, but there are opportunities for sure. Okay, so second step that I always do is I always go to iStock Photo, which is where I get my royalty-free images. And I'm gonna do one thumbnail that has perhaps some symbolic images. I'm gonna share with you some of the rules that I have when it comes to, well, how or what do I select for an image? How might I manipulate it to have text show up if I wanted to do that? So Photoshop could work. There's some good information in the chat here from other people. PowerPoint or Keynote could work as well. In fact, that's a really great strategy because you can create a presentation that's around the same size. You can use the tools within Keynote or PowerPoint to drag and drop images, to add text, to manipulate and add color and other things. And that's a really good, probably much more economical way than using, in fact, that would be a really good video too, right? How to use Keynote to create YouTube thumbnails that get clicked, right? I added that benefit after that. So I always go to iStock Photo. It's just, I have a plan there, so I have access to this. There's other places to get photos that are a lot cheaper too. Depositphotos.com is another one. Deposit Photos. So this is another place where you can get photos, and oftentimes you'll find the same photos on each of these, right? So sometimes I'll just type in the keyword, audience engagement. Sometimes these stock photo websites have literally they know that people search for things like, do I want this for my thumbnail? Audience engagement. 2 people kissing. Probably not the kind of engagement that I want, right? This is where you'll find a problem sometimes. Sometimes engagement means different things versus the engagement that we want with tech, right? So this is a pretty cool image. However, I'm also wondering, okay, well, where might I add text if I want to add text? How would this lay out in a square or in a rectangle, and how would it stand out from others? There's also the other option of, putting your face on it, and that often works out really well too. In fact, a lot of my popular videos have my face and a little bit of text for context on the other side. Sometimes people like seeing other people's faces. This is why I think it's important for you to create a thumbnail based on what other thumbnails exist for certain keywords, right? So I don't think I'm going to use that sort of engagement/marriage one, but I'm going to experiment with this one. And I like to download it at the biggest size. So I'm going to download this image here after I sign in, and I'm going to not share my screen when I put in my password here. 1 second. Okay. So here we are. I'm going to download this image. And the reason why I like this image is because there's a computer. People can relate to that. There's people liking. There's people commenting. There's hearts, that sort of thing. That could work out really, really well. Okay, so I got that now. Now what I want to do is go into my downloads. Actually, what I'm not seeing is... Okay, let's go to Ecamm. When I share, I'm showing... I want to share primary display. Okay, so now when I pop this up... Yep, okay, good. Downloads. Let's go to... Date added. Oh, did I download it yet? No, confirm download. There we go. All right, now let's go to Photoshop. Now I'm going to pop this in here. Okay, now typically it'll resize it for you so that it fits. But I don't necessarily need it to fit all the way through. Sometimes what I'll do, however, is if I say, for example, there's an image where on the left-hand side, if I could extend that image, it could work out really well. So oftentimes what I'll do is I'll make sure I rasterize this image, which means I can then sort of play with it. And oftentimes what I'll do is I'll like take just a bit, and this is not gonna work for this, but I'm just sharing you a trick. And what I'll do is I'll transform this. And so I can actually, whoa, that's super weird. But I can actually extend this out. And that's actually not too bad. It looks a little funky, and you can see the table here. So this is why it didn't work. But sometimes you might have a landscape, and the image just is perfect, except part of it's been hanging off, and there's a little bit of white background. I'll just simply transform it a little bit so that I can actually have that room. But I don't want to do that. So I was just sharing a little tip. So what I want to do is transform it like this, make it a little bit bigger, because remember, thumbnails people see mostly on their mobile device, right? So I'm looking for a great way to frame this in such a way where it would have some interesting eye-catching items, some room for text, and be framed in a way that I think would still provide context. So I sort of like that. So at the center of this thumbnail now, you can see that I have the sort of engagement points there. And then I have the computer behind it. And now because this is a because this is a white background, I want to use sort of a darker text. So I want to use a black text, and we'll experiment with that. More engagement. And I'm experimenting. I want it to be black text, not white text. And let's just play around with this. This is, again, I don't know how this is going to work. Like, that doesn't work really well. Engagement might be a little bit too long. And in fact, engagement is a word that is in the title. So it might not be necessary, right? What about more? More. And I like to, let's see, more. Likes. Again, just experimenting here. No, see, that doesn't work for me either. All right, now let's keep messing around with this. I might need more room. Now, in this case, I could probably get more room in the way that I was describing earlier, right? So let's go back to this image. Let's get rid of the text. Let's see if we can play around and manipulate this image a little bit more. Right, so there's that. And maybe what I'm going to do is take a clone stamp tool, which allows me to take a portion. So if I were to like clone stamp that, I can put that heart anywhere like this, right? So I don't want to do that. I want to clone the edge of this person's arm like that, and essentially just keep adding on to it. Cool. Now we got a little bit more room. And oftentimes what I like to do here is just blur out some things just so it's not such a hard, like sometimes if you look at it, there's like a hard line down there. I'm just gonna blur that out a little bit and blur things. So now I have a little bit more room to work with. And so if I put more up here, more, oops, not that. Let's go more. Let's see. more comments. There, okay, that's not terrible. More comments. Better. Let's try this. More comments, better community. And the reason why I'm adding that better community is I think, you know, part of me wants to always include, like, what's the benefit? And again, it's not always possible, but this looks like it could work out pretty well. And again, we just took a few minutes to do this, and yes, I did some sort of ninja stuff to expand it a little bit, but I kind of like that. That's pretty cool. Now, to just give you some context here, should you be doing this yourself? Probably not. In fact, ideally, if you are the CEO of your company or the leader, you should have somebody else do this kind of stuff for you. And in fact, there are people that you could pay. There's probably easier ways to do this, but you know, I used to do this mostly for everything, like literally all my podcast artwork, every piece of graphic that you saw on the website. I even coded and designed my websites myself, and I learned how to do that, and I completely wasted my time. Because eventually it took me a very long time to learn that, well, if you're the CEO of a company, you can't be doing things like this. You have more important things and better things to do. Now, for me, being sort of newbie here on YouTube, and I say I'm newbie even though I've been on for a while, I'm still learning, right? We're all in this together. I'm learning as we go. And I like that I can show you how to do these things in case you are bootstrapping or just starting out. But ideally, you'd want somebody else to sort of take this role for you so that you don't have to do it yourself. So from here, what I want to do is File, Export. And I'm just looking at how big this size is. So at a JPEG, it's 720. Oftentimes, if we go to PNG, it'll get too big. So I'm changing it to a PNG file just to kind of see what the file size is. No, it's still okay at PNG, but honestly, either one will work. I'm going to go for the smaller file. I'm going to hit Save. And I'm just going to save this on my desktop just so it's easy. Thumbnail, and this is engagement. I do usually put it into like a folder or something like that, but I'm not going to do that for you right now. And then I'm going to go to my channel here, and I'm going to go to YouTube Studio. I'm going to go to videos. I'm going to go to live, and I'm wondering if I can actually edit this while it's live. I'm not quite sure that I can. Actually, details. 5 secrets to better audience engagement. And I'm going to scroll down. Let's change this thumbnail to audience engagement. Even at that small level, I can read that. And I'm going to hit save. So there's the new thumbnail for today's live stream. So there you go. Now, one thing that I probably could do even a little bit more here would be, oftentimes it's great to have a little bit more contrast to have the things stand out that you want to stand out. So on this image, for example, I might want, for example, the blue stuff to stand out a little bit more. So like something like that. So do you see the difference there? Kind of more grayed out. I've just increased the contrast a little bit. A little bit of how this sort of can stand out a little bit more. So I'm going to click OK there. And this happens all the time. I'll like edit something right after I export it. Then I'm going to go to Vibrance, and I want to see if that changes anything. A little bit too bright there. A little bit more colored, a little bit more poppy. Yeah, okay. So that could work out too. Anyway, just a little bit of a demo. Hopefully that helps go through a little bit of a process that you might be able to use. I always start, however, and this is the most important thing, no matter how you get your thumbnails done or who does them for you, I always start by looking at the existing thumbnails that are there to see how and where this compares. Now, the last trick that I'll share with you that I like to do is, let me go into YouTube here, and I'm going to go to the computer. I'm going to do, let's see, audience engagement. And maybe I can shrink this a little bit so I can see a little bit more. right? Oh, actually, you can see the thumbnail there already, which is pretty cool, right? More comments, better community. 5 secrets to better audience engagement, right? So now it stands out a little bit. Now, if I could change it a little bit, I might change the blue to be red because I'm seeing a lot of blue here. But yeah, I think this should work out pretty well. Cool. Hopefully that was helpful, and we got some live training. I always love doing that. It's not always going to happen in every single stream, but whenever I have the opportunity to share something with you, more than happy to do that.
Bruh.
Awesome. So let's keep going. I don't know how to highlight your name. I hope you saw it. Okay, I've been swapping up the images, but keeping the template the same. Looks great. Awesome. Fly ride. That's great. I agree with Hey Archer, but it's also helpful to see how the different video styles go. So good. So still a good learning tool. Thank you. Where did the live stream animation go? I turned it off. I have it here if you want it though. I don't have it on all the time. Sometimes it's distracting, especially when I start sharing my screen. Coach Deb says you could get rid of that computer and the image completely and then have more room for the words. I could. However, I do want to provide context. And again, this is something that we could test, but probably a little bit more on the sort of overdoing side at this point. But again, I'm always learning. I'm always trying new things. And as I collect more information, I'm going to obviously offer that for you every time I learn something new here on the live stream. The other cool thing is I think I'm going to go back to experimenting with maybe a little bit more interaction up front, providing a little bit more context, answering some questions about certain topics, and then maybe perhaps in the middle of the live stream, sort of holding off on the commentary for a brief moment in time while I teach, and then going back into it, and then perhaps trimming that first part out. The chat goes away. People watching the replay maybe don't even necessarily need the chat, but I can pop up questions here, as you can see, like this one. And the unpopular mom, hi, thanks for being here. And we'll see what happens. And that way, I trim out the fat in the beginning, and then we have all the good stuff for people who want to watch the replay. And hey, if you want to chat, you gotta come live, right? Which makes sense, right? I'm not quite sure how useful the chat is for people who watch the replay. So I'm just sort of brain dumping, sharing with you my thoughts as I do this live, which is pretty cool. Hopefully you enjoyed this, and wow, we breezed by that really fast. I also want to give a big shout out to today's sponsor, which we didn't mention in the beginning, but everybody here and everybody watching the replay, we have a sponsor on board through May 24th, which is really cool, and I have to thank Buzzsprout.com for that. Buzzsprout.com is a podcast hosting provider, and it's one I use for my show Ask Pat. I absolutely love it. It's the best UI you can actually imagine in something like this. It allows you to easily get your podcast up on places like Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple, etc. And they just released a really cool tool built into Buzzsprout. So you record a podcast, you upload it to Buzzsprout, and you can use their magic mixer, which allows you to know that they will master that file for you when you upload it. Meaning they're going to make all the levels the way they need to be. They're going to make it sound the best it can be, just for you, like no additional charge, just in your hosting provider. And that's, I think, the first hosting provider I've seen do that sort of automatically, especially for people at the lower tier price plans, which is really cool. And I've been with them for a long time. Their whole team cares about the success of their podcasters. I have met them in person. They've come to FlynnCon. They're absolutely amazing. So if you want to check out Buzzsprout, go through my affiliate link. It's smartpassiveincome.com/Buzzsprout. One more time, smartpassiveincome.com/Buzzsprout. And when you go there, smartpassiveincome.com/Buzzsprout, you will be taken to a page that says we are partnered up, and you're going to get 33% more time added to your plan, which is really cool. And yeah, Buzzsprout's amazing. So definitely check them out. And in fact, they're so amazing that they are for the live stream audience here alone. They were just like, we want to give away stuff. So they're giving away a Samson Q2U microphone every single day to a person here in this chat room, in any which way that I want to manage that. So what's really cool is I'm going to flip the camera around in just a moment, show off the comments. I'm going to scroll through the comments, and we're going to pick one random commenter to win a Samson Q2U microphone that they will send to you. And we have just about as many comments as we did yesterday, which is pretty crazy. So yeah, we're going to get into it. I'm going to go to this camera here. You'll in fact see that, what is this habit for me thing that people are talking about? What's a habit for me? Yeah, I don't know. Jay says, question, do you purposefully loudly slurp your coffee, or do you know that you're doing that? I did not know I was doing that, but my microphone is right up there, as you can see. Microphone, mouth, coffee. That's why I don't do it purposefully. Okay, let's get to these. Let's get to the winner. Here we go. So you'll see my cursor show up right here. Okay, I'm going to keep that in its place. I'm going to scroll to the top and do a scroll down below, and wherever it lands, that's the winner. So here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey, Just Samson. Winner, my friend. Congratulations to you. Promise that was not a planned thing, but congratulations. Heck of a slurp, mate. Thank you. So winner, there we go. Just Samson, welcome. Congratulations. Samson, send an email to pat@patflynn.com and we'll get you hooked up with that. And we'll do another giveaway tomorrow. So make sure you come in 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, come in live, and we're going to have some fun. It'll be another topic. You'll see it. Always go to this link right here, patflynn.com/theincomestream. That'll take you to the live stream every single morning. Again, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. If you're watching the replay, thank you again so much. If you haven't yet done so, make sure you hit subscribe and do that. That way you don't miss anything that comes your way. And we have some more videos coming out. I also have the video that I did yesterday for you about YouTube video preparation to get it done faster and with better quality. That has already been filmed, and my editor is now in the process of editing that. So you'll see that come out later in the week, probably tomorrow or Friday, and we'll go from there. So thank you again so much for being a part of this. We still have a few minutes left, which is great. So already getting to my closing remarks there. But yeah. Doe Up Dad says, love the direct to the audience talk replay. Tells us in the chat to hang out as he talks to the camera while not ignoring us, and sells the stream to the replay viewers. Brilliant. Yeah, that was the idea, right? So, hey, I'm doing this live. Make sure you stick around, and if you haven't come in the morning, you can, and all that sort of stuff. So anyway, congrats. Just Samson, send an email. Yeah, this has been a lot of fun. I'm always, again, trying to improve every single time. At any moment in time you ever have any suggestions or even big ideas on things that we can do to make this stream a little bit better, did I lose you? No, we're still here. Sorry, I lost the connection on my iPad here with the chat. Anyway, if at any moment in time you have better ideas or things that I can do, even bold ideas, I'd love to, and I'm more than happy to welcome. I'm welcome to them, and always doing what I can to improve. My goal would be to have on this live stream 1,000 people watching simultaneously. Also, really fun news that I didn't share yet with anybody. Today I have a video interview for KTLA. So literally a television news station. I don't know when it's going to get published or what, but it's in the afternoon at some point, and I'm scheduled to be interviewed on Skype. I don't know if they're going to take that and package it into something later. I'll keep you posted. I have an interview tomorrow for the San Diego Union Tribune, which is a newspaper here in San Diego. I have another interview for a television station in Austin next week. And so we're doing some fun stuff. My story, having gotten laid off in 2008, is obviously very relevant right now, especially as the unemployment rates continue to grow. And I want to be here as a resource here on the live stream and just with smartpassiveincome.com and patflynn.com in general to help you and anybody else in need right now. If you happen to know somebody who's gotten laid off, see if you can direct them to this page here, smartpassiveincome.com/toolkit. That'll allow you to get access to the page where we've provided a ton of information for free that a lot of times we have to pay for, including my course, Smart From Scratch, which will help you start a business no matter what level you're at. And we've given away over $3 million worth of that course already. Some of my books, including Let Go, which is about my story about how I got laid off in 2008 and how we were able to turn that around as a family and turn that into something great. And finally, just want to say we're at the top of the hour. So thank you so much. I appreciate you. Have an amazing day today. Keep getting stuff done and keep showing up every morning. It just means the world to me. Thank you so much, and stay safe, stay inside, and we're gonna get through this together. So long as we're in quarantine and we're staying at home, I'm gonna be here showing up for you, creating something regular, hopefully, and entertaining for you every single day. So thanks for showing up with me. I appreciate you. We're in this together, and that's Team Flynn for the win. Peace out.
This This is the income stream to help you achieve your dream. All while we keep it clean. This is the income stream. It's the kind of show
Great day today.
where you can come and go, but then you leave inspired with no fee required. The income stream with Pat Flynn.
As Chris says, wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands. Use common sense. Get out there, help other people. This is a time for leaders to step up, and those who step up in this situation are going to be wildly rewarded on the other end. So keep up the good work. Appreciate you. And as always, peace out. Team Flynn for the win.